Advanced English Arabic Learning Session 48. Stuff happens. Sheltering from a downpour under a large black umbrella. Primal hunting societies. He appeared to be whispering sweet nothings in her ear. The couple in the corner, whispering, murmuring sweet nothings to each other. He appeared aghast as Jasmine whispered sweet nothings into his ear on the lounger. He preys on people's primal fears. The air was charged with menace. A children's ward. She strikes a chord with a story about people on the fringe who find solace in each other. The country slipped back into recession in the second quarter after years of stagnation. A man with nothing much up top. His sense of humor and quick wit were legendary. Up top. To take the matter to arbitration to avoid expensive legal costs. Claims can be settled via mutual consent, by arbitration, or by a court award. He stoked up the barbecue. Troglodytes. It is common for great powers to try to fight wars by proxy. The tiger stalks the jungle. She was ill during hustings and had to send a proxy to make speeches on her behalf. They outmanned us 3-1, outnumber. He was arrested after getting into a punch-up with a photographer. He kicked him in the shin. The steadfastness of our people and the noble resistance. Thousands of Israelis living near Gaza have fled their homes. Purified linseed oil. His leg has inflated to twice its size, as poison surged through his veins. A ritual bath to purify the soul. I physically couldn't walk and was bedbound for weeks. He said the ordeal has only heightened his fear of spiders and bugs. I hate all bugs, I don't like them full stop. Anything with more than 4 legs. Leaving their children under the watchful eye of a babysitter. She appeared to be makeup-free under her tortoiseshell sunglasses. A football fiend. He proceeded to impose strict puritanical rules. The embryonic limb bud. They were vilified as loose women and prostitutes. Browsers can choose from a wide assortment of goodies. I am not an emasculated sock puppet. There were tons of nostalgia, family sentiment, and bonding. Market sentiment seems to be relatively optimistic about the outlook for the U.S. economy. He looked masculine and masterful. This important passage contains at least one blatant lie and a wide assortment of half-truths. That goal was an absolute gift. You have the comical sense to see absurdity in daily life. Man is gifted with a moral sense. We now had a clear-cut objective. Those who make a living from the sea know that tides don't merely ebb and flow. I hounded your father. For many, the big attraction was the lure of the livestock. Impish ruse. 1 in 20 women has lopsided breasts, sagging breast. Impish grin. Ronaldo delivered a decisive blow in the second inning. He had an impish look about him. When harmony persists in the home, harmony abides in the community. Rager teenager. In the end, the men had made a decision and all had abided by it. The council has envisaged some problems might arise. She dobbied me into mum. The people I called friends, more close acquaintances, left for university. Everyone dobbied in a few dollars, kicked in dot. I dobbied him in to do the cleaning. In order to prevent the image from being blurry, she had to rotate while the camera shutter was open. If you subscribe now, we'll kick in a bonus. furthering the interests of the child in promoting their preferred form of custody. Both boxers enjoyed the trip and are looking forward to furthering their horizons later in the season. He waffled on about his problems. Methods of contraception include diaphragms, condoms, and cervical caps. He had been waffling over where to go. The passions are a prerequisite of everyday human existence. To pitch my services. Military operations pose a threat to our people's existence. An enclosure 10 acres in extent. No doubt, the number of survivors eking out a precarious existence must far exceed the death toll. The remains of yesterday's stew could be eked out to make another meal. Many traders barely eked out a living. I do, however, recall seeing on television protesters burning effigies and flags. I stole a hog, a large motorcycle, buttload of cats. He furthered my quest to slowly and deliberately develop my personal identity. If there is anything that infuriates me, it is being ignored or dismissed. I will be single for good. From the outset, we were invited to believe that compassion and warfare would be interwoven. This is the saner version of me. His efforts to weld together the religious parties ran into trouble. The Edinburgh Royal Infirmary. I felt cornered in poor Stan. There is also a religious revival in France generally. It is a misnomer to think of the 19th century as a secular age. A robin was pecking at crumbs on the ground. The International Coffee Organization provided funds to Angola for the revival of its coffee production. The plaster started to crumble. Eclipses of the sun and the moon occur every 6 months. She brushed some cake crumbs off her dress. Massage parlor, an establishment providing massages. He crept downstairs, hardly making any noise. The fog was creeping up from the marsh. It is a perilous journey into the unknown, mental torment and physical pain at every turn. I thought he was a nasty little creep. To ensure that little children don't step on landmines and die. Doubt has to be creeping in. But failure to create a viable land settlement was politically perilous. Errors crept into his game. Swords and spears, bows and arrows. Gas prices have been creeping up for a while. He bit his girlfriend's lip and bid to disfigure her. Everybody has an alibi. But far fewer women vouch for their expertise. He conked out on the rear seat, faint or fall asleep. We are all anxious and eager to find answers to questions that intrigue and perplex us. The clown conked him, hit on the head. Being chased by a giant mutant spider is enough to send most people into a fit of terror. Look at the size of that conch, nose. This pooch caused quite a stir when she was let loose disguised as a terrifying eight-legged beast. In the far distance a machine droned. She failed to turn up and I felt badly let down. A man was slain with a shotgun. They shared a tender smooch during romantic Hawaiian getaway. My fiend friends. The unnamed defendant admitted with hindsight that his actions were stupid. The town that dreaded sundown. Although almost a quarter of male snoopers said they did so because they are nosy. He squirmed and quivered. He struggled to cope when his girlfriend broke off their relationship. Rooks caught in the dark trees. It is one of the world's most famous ancient sites. It seems that the purchase might not have been entirely on a whim. Her miscreant husband. they can still take up the offer of free access to the monuments. A publicity campaign. The first millennium AD, there had been a nunnery on the site. The easiest way to crumble cheese. She had erected the nunnery to help assuage her guilt. The letter assuaged the fears of most members. An opportunity occurred to assuage her desire for knowledge. He tried to assuage the guilt of wrongdoing by doing right. He was able to assuage the bad feelings. She is becoming filled with remorse. The party's fragile unity began to crumble. He decided to attend the auction, ostensibly to learn about auction procedure. If he's overweight, he should slim. Some live in restricted areas in the West Bank and some in adjoining Arab countries. How can I slim down my hips? His remains were removed to the Church of the Assumption, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Play with the slim slime. We will now be able to sell the remaining part of the adjoining block. Make a slit in the stem under a bud. We chose a flag, an anthem, and an emblem, a coat of arms, a national day, and so forth. Give me the truth or I will slit your throat. Many of the treasures of these nobles were put up for sale at auction. She slitted her eyes to look at him. If people are obviously trolling, then I'll delete your posts and do my best to ban you. They worked from sunup to sundown. A plaque commemorating his birth was erected in the late 1980s. Visiting prisoners starts at sunup. The president exclaimed as he was afforded privileged access to the ancient stones themselves. To carry her plea to the ears of the dictator. I didn't even give him a chance to muster a response to what I said. Mobilization of the army brought 2,000 men under arms. Mobilization of the working class against big business. The mobilization of resources to handle emergencies. He changed his plea to not guilty. During the mobilization, the army, all personnel are required to muster at a designated site. The end. Coming next. Session 49.